Hi, in this video, we're going to dive into the habits part of the Align project management system. And if you're noticing this environment looks a little bit different than the test one, that is because I've already cleared out all of the test data and had to re-record our habits one due to audio issues, but it's been tested, so we'll go through it this time. So again, same as alignment. Mine is not going to look exactly like the one that you're going to get because this is, the prototype and the system I actually use. And so I streamlined it and cleaned it up a bit for you guys. But you can see here, I've got, so this is a habit, this is a habit, this is a habit, this is a habit. And I actually have these set up. Does it let me? There it is. So I actually have these set up to where you'll see a bunch of different recurring tasks that are here. And so I'll show you how you can do that once you develop your habits. It's really easy. You can create a new template. And so for most of these, there's not anything in the actual template. So if I go in and edit, things that will automatically be created when the event is generated is that it'll be not started. It'll take me 5 minutes to do because I use Duolingo. You can see that anything in blue is going to be dynamic. And this is where the automation kind of comes in. And I'll go back and talk about habits here in a second. But since I'm showing this to you in a live working environment rather than the template that you'll get that will be empty, you can see how this will work in motion. You can see that it's tied to my projects, the habit itself. So practice Japanese, it comes in there. You can customize as part of this the different little icons, as well as change the color. So if I did want to color code this, I could, but I like to add the little icons, make it fun. And if it's something that's fun, I'll tend to use it. But you can see where all of this is, where it pulls into the other layers of the system. And then let me see, because there's not, so there's not really anything else to this template. And it can be just as simple to create, because you'll just set things like if you have a habit to, here, let's look at one that you'll probably want to definitely set up rather than one that's specific to me. Weekly planning, financial tracking. Everybody should be tracking finances, personal, definitely in your business. And so the way I have this set up is I can edit it, or if you don't have one, you'll just create a new template. And things I could do to actually make this a better template, and I probably will after this, would be if you can see it's connected to all the goals, the projects, the dreams and themes. This doesn't have the pillars and areas layer, but I can add that to it. Again, this is prototype. But you can see that it's like, hey, here's financial trackers to update of this is where it is. I didn't realize I'd done this because it's been a bit since I actually just looked at this task as opposed to just going and doing it. But if I had asked, handed or delegated this to my husband, who also has access to all the same accounts, it's okay, here's how I update it. Here's where these things go. And then you can just check these things off because this is a Google Sheet. And you can see when stuff's connected to your Google Drive, how it just comes in like that and we'll pull it in. And then you can say, okay, personal, financial, Stripe, and where everything else is. So ways I use this, so you can see, is I have a list here of, I have some clients that I do monthly SEO work for. So it is, this generates the task, automatically assigns it to my husband, who does a lot of the management and pulls it for me. And then I can complete the analysis of it and send the video and the report to the client. I'm not going to go into this because this does have private information in it, but essentially it is in that same area where it has content. It generates a step-by-step checklist of exactly where to access and generate the report, who to, the email addresses and who it gets emailed to, what folder to upload it in the drive so that way it's shared and accessible with the right people. Like the whole process is documented there. And that's where having routines and systems and habits in your business and in your life can actually really help you out. And if you make checklists, I always say, are the lowest level of automation because you have steps to follow, even if, sometimes I have low brain energy days. And it's nice to know I have that fail safe of, okay, it's a new month and I have it even set to where it generates on a specific date. So what you can do with this and how you make any template within Notion can be a recurring and automatically generated template. Where this comes into the system, and I'll touch on this again in our actions and tasks video, is I don't have to think to have these things generate. It just automatically creates it. So the way you do that is, 3-dot menu here, and you can see this repeat option. And so you can do it where it is weekly, daily, monthly, yearly, and then you can set it on specific dates or days of the week, and then it will continue to generate until you turn it off. So that's how I set up my habits with that. Now let's go down to my actual habits section, and you can see that. So like I said, I didn't have to generate this, or this, or this one. All of those were automatically created for me today in Notion, so I can just move through those. All right, so let's go down to my actual habits area. And so you can see where I've marked things as focus, habits that are active versus things I might do someday. So you can see some of my brain storming here. I can't really create the daily garden tasks until I go plant said garden, and there's some other things that go. So dependencies can fall into play here. And so you just set, what's the frequency weekly, and we have, daily, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually are the defaults. You can of course add your own, and it's not enough to say like how often do I want to do it? It's also, okay, when am I going to do it? And so the time of the day could be morning. Startup is usually I'm sitting at my computer and I'm, starting up my day of work, versus like morning routine might be something a little bit different. Shutdown is similar, like right before I shut down work, how I have that set up. This doesn't necessarily push it to a specific, it's not tied to like a calendar time. It's just a way of flagging the data of what my intention is of when I will complete the habit. And so you can see once this is a habit. So, and then you can see where it's kind of tying back to is, with my jobs, like I do audits and send any technical issues over our development team to fix. That needs to happen on a weekly basis. So we're maintaining the system. So you can set that up. And then just like we had our, this is actually the habits. I just renamed it or the projects. I renamed it in your version to make it clearer. We also have our habits and then focus habits. So that way I know, really you don't want to have too many of those at a time, because the idea is you build a habit and then you build a routine. So you build, once I've got, I would argue like, serving in life kids, that's a weekly habit. I don't think about it. It's just part of our weekly routine. So I could add in something else that I would want to happen either, usually it's better to do after. So you start kind of that chain of habits. To do that. And this is also a good example too of where I have a project that we're doing, but I have a habit that's in support of that project that's going right now, even though most of the other actions associated with this are future actions as we get closer to that date. So that's something to keep in mind. And then of course we have Yours will actually show the habits. This is currently set to just show me the projects. I'm going to go back through and how I set yours up. I'm actually going to set mine up to do that. And so that is how habits work in Notion. And the reason why project and habits are kind of at that same level is in order to move your goals and milestones forward, you have to have either a project with a next action or you have to have a habit. And so this lets you kind of decide the habits. And then when they're in focus, that's when I create the recurring action task for that. So to go back up here, you'll notice that I create my habits as it makes sense. And then I could also update this to where it is. These are actually a little duplicative, arguably, but you can kind of do that. And then right now, this is not one that I have because I haven't built that yet, but I know I want to have it. So all I have to do to turn it on is hit the 3 dots and then edit the repeat once I'm ready to have it generate. So that is ways that you can have your habits show up here. Going over to the daily dashboard real quick so you can see, because there's another little area where that shows up, is we have, again, similar view on the tasks. And then you can see of like, okay, logging sleep is part of the daily log. That's a habit I'm building that's not necessarily over here. So as these become kind of more routine, you can move them over here, or it's up to you. There's kind of 2 different ways you can handle habits. Or if this is part of a larger routine, you can say, okay, I completed my morning routine, which could include these 3 things. In addition to some other ones that are already habits I've established. Again, system is built to be flexible. I'm here to just show you the options within the same system as well as just within Notion itself. The reason I have these set up here is when I release the next module, which will be kind of that review cycle, you'll be able to use these check boxes to kind of roll up and see how consistent with your habits you're being. So it becomes a habit tracker that is, again, it's just different ways of looking at the data. And you can figure out what works for you and how you like to see it. And then that's what you use within your Notion. The next video will cover actions and go deeper into that. As always, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you.